Good day to our Dr. Nurhaiza Nordin. Today we are going to present AFT 1093 Macroeconomics about the effects of pandemic COVID-19 on economy of Indonesia. Our group assignment consists of Ms. Tan Jun Ai, A18B005EP, Mr. Lim Teck Chai, A18B006EP, Mr. Wong Chin Ngon, A18L0001EP, and our Ms. Nur Huria binti Zakaria, A20B002EP. Table of content. Number 1, introduction, the background of the country. Number 2, body of content, economics activities, impact of COVID-19 to the economic growth, impact of COVID-19 to the unemployment, impact of COVID-19 to the inflation rate, impact of COVID-19 to the economic activities such as manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, healthcare, and others. And then we're going to discuss about economics policies implementation, which is fiscal policy and monetary policy. Then finally we will come to the conclusion, which we will sum up with the role of the government or other respective institution in order to sustain the economy and how the government help these sectors of the economy. Number 1, introduction, background of the country. The largest economy in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, a diverse archipelago nation of more than 300 ethnic groups, has charted impressive economic growth since overcoming the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s. Today, Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous nation, the world's 10th largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity, and a member of G20. Furthermore, Indonesia has made enormous gain in poverty reduction, cutting the poverty rate by more than half since 1999 to 9.78% in 2020. Prior to the COVID-19 crisis, Indonesia was able to maintain consistent economic growth, recently qualifying the country to reach upper middle class status. Indonesia's economic planning follows a 20 development plan spanning from 2005 to 2025. It is segmented into 5 years medium-term plan called the RPJMN, Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah Nasional, each with different development priorities. The current medium-term development plan, the last phase of the long-term plan, runs from 2020 to 2024. It aims to further strengthen Indonesia's economy by improving the country's human capital and competitiveness in the global market. Content, economic activities. Indonesia has a market-based economy in which the government plays a significant role, including administering prices for some basic goods such as fuel, rice, and electricity. In terms of value added, the industrial sector accounted for 40% of GDP in 2015. Significant foreign direct investment and government incentive has positioned the industry for future growth. Major industrial sectors include petroleum and natural gas, textile and apparel, mining, footwear, plywood, rubber, and chemical fertilizers. The services sector is equally as important to Indonesia's economy, accounting for 45% of GDP in 2015. Agriculture, on the other hand, only accounted for 14%. Indonesia's main trading partners are Japan, China, Singapore, and South Korea. The United States is also a significant export market. Indonesia's most important export commodities are oil and gas, minerals, crude palm oil, electrical appliances, and other rubber products. The impact of COVID-19 to the economic growth. Indonesia's first COVID-19 case was reported in March 2020, but growth for the first quarter 2020 declined from the usual average year-on-year YOY growth of 5% to 3.0%. This was followed by the consecutive contraction of 5.3% in the second quarter 2020 and the 3.5% in third quarter 2020, which brings the cumulative growth to negative 2.0%. Private consumption, investment and export has collapsed due to the pandemic's impact on business activity. As a result, economic growth was dependent largely on government spending and a deep drop in the import demand. The external accounts saw a notable decline in foreign direct investment, which was worsened by portfolio investment outflow, amounting to USD 7.7 billion just in March alone. This is the largest monthly outflows recorded after the 1998 Asian financial crisis. However, this was soon offset with sizable trade surpluses starting in May 2020 and USD 7.5 billion worth of external corporate bond issuance, causing a positive drop in the current account deficit from 2.7% of GDP in the first half of 2019 to 1.2% of GDP in the same period of 2020. Meanwhile, foreign exchange reserve fell USD 10.7 billion during first quarter 2020 to a low of USD 121 billion and then gradually recovered to USD 137 billion by August 2020. Bank Indonesia, supported by a low inflation environment, moved to cut its policy rate by 100 BPS through 4 separate rate revisions. This pushed down the yield of 10-year government bonds from a high of 7.9% in March to 6.8% by July. This also pushed down bank deposit and lending rates, but with the weak demand, banks' loan remaining stagnant. Impact of COVID-19 to the unemployment. 14% of primary earners switched job because of pandemic. Almost half, 47.3% of those who did change job moved from work as salaried employees in the formal sector into less secure work in the informal sector. People working in industry, transport or services pre-COVID were most likely to leave formal jobs for informal ones. 43.1% moves to the construction sector and 36.7% moved to the agriculture sector. Among the small proportion of households where the primary earner had been for life, 5.5%, almost 3/4, 73.7% had received no wages at all, and more than 1/5, 21.2% had received reduced wages. Only 1/3 of those who were suspended were guaranteed a return to their job. Suspension occurred every month throughout the year, but peaked in April and October. This is in line with strictness of public health measures. Impact of COVID-19 to the inflation rate. Inflation is a continuous increase in the price of goods and services. Increased cost of goods and services will increase inflation. Consequently, it will reduce the value of money. Then inflation also means a decrease in the amount of money against the cost of goods and services in general. Inflation is determined based on the consumer price index value. The CPI is an index that calculates the average price change of a package of goods and services consumed by households over a certain period. Changes in the CPI over time reflects the rate of increased inflation or the quality of decline deflation of goods and services. The inflation of Indonesia shows a trend that tends to weaken during this pandemic period. Until July 2020, it reached negative 0.01%. The people's weak purchasing power has lowered the inflation rate. COVID-19 pandemic has changed the trend of inflation in Indonesia. Until July 2020, the inflation trend showed a pattern not in line with the trend in 2019. It can be seen from the data in July 2020, where there was inflation of minus 0.1% or deflation. This deflation occurred 2 months after the Ramadan period, which ended in May 2020. In contrast to the 2019 trend, where deflation occurs in the third month after Ramadan, this change in inflation trend was caused by an increase in layoff BHK and existence of work scheme to become work from home WFH, which in turn had an impact on decreasing demand. Indonesia's inflation in January to July 2019 and 2020 shows in figure 1.
Impact of COVID-19 to the economic activities. 1. Manufacturing. The data from the BKPM reported that the investment in the manufacturing sector soared from the IDR 104.6 trillion in the first quarter of 2019 to IDR 129.6 trillion during the first quarters of 2020, reaching a 23.9% growth rate. This has come to a surprise since the growth is during the corresponding quarters of the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister of Industry Agus Gumiwang stated that the industry growth performance during the first quarters of 2020 dropped 2.01% in comparisons to the 4.80% growth in the previous years. The Purchasing Manager Index has also reached 27.5 point in February, become the lowest record in existence. However, Agus reports that the industrial environment in Indonesia slowly improved, reaching 29.1 point in June. This speaks to the low performance during industry sector largely contributes to the nation's foreign exchange earning in the January to June period, with 32.2% of the total investment value of IDR 402.6 trillion. This investment value in the manufacturing sector shows a balance between foreign and the domestic investor. The Deputy Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the Economics Zones, Sani Iskandar, reported that there are the 29 foreign investors in the 29 domestic investors who have entered the industry zone in June 2020. Economic policy implementations. To deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government have taken a quick step, include efforts to restore the national economic, accelerate measures for handling the COVID-19 pandemic are outlined in the government regulation in lieu of the law PER-PPU numbers 1/2020, passed into the law of 2/2020 concerning state financial policy and the financial system stability. The government have authority to relax the budget deficit policy beyond 3% at the latest until the end of the year's 2022 fiscal years. Several policy steps taken by the government include refocusing and reallocating the budget for the non-priority activities and the providing a stimulus for handling the impact of the pandemic and national economic recovery, the various stimuli and provide.
Conclusion. Government effort to control the COVID-19 pandemic remain a work in progress. Meanwhile, the government has also set up an aggressive budget to help kickstart the economy in 2020. The economy is recovering, but its pace remains weak. Foreign funds that left easier are starting to trickle back. The bond and stock market are also recovering, and so is the rupiah, strengthening to Rp 14,200 per USD level from Rp rupiah 16,700 level in early April 2020. The challenge ahead will be to bring down COVID-19 infections to a more manageable level so that the economic recovery as well as activity in business and financial market can be sustained. That's all. Thank you.